All right, so with the deadline approaching, it wasn't a matter of if, but where Jimmy Butler would go, and it is Golden State. Warriors have been looking for another star to pair with Steph Curry and Draymond for one more run, and Jimmy said, welcome to the Wild Wild West. Indeed, the Heat moving Butler to Golden State. It's a multi-team deal. The key pieces in the get-back from Miami, Andrew Wiggins, the six-time All-Star from Miami, who led the Heat to a couple of NBA Finals, did agree to a new two-year, $111 million extension with Golden State through 26-27. We welcome Shams Charania to the show. And out of the gate, let's collectively acknowledge that this man right here told us that this is what Jimmy Butler wanted, and there were protests to the contrary. No, he doesn't want to get moved. He gets moved, Shams. I just want to acknowledge that as I ask you, what had to happen for this to happen?
Scott, this all started 2 months ago when the Heat started really listening to offers for Jimmy Butler, and Butler was open to win now trade destinations. And the writing was really on the wall. You know, Pat Riley had his press conference after the season, and both sides were really looking for a move. And obviously the saga that we saw took place over the coming 2 months after that spoke for itself. There were several teams in play here this entire time, but really from the beginning of this process, the Phoenix Suns and Golden State Warriors were the two teams most in touch with the Miami Heat on trying to figure out a package. And what Miami really wanted were shorter-term contracts or a player like Andrew Wiggins who satisfied exactly what they needed, a two-way player, and they got that in Andrew Wiggins. And at the end of the day, the Golden State Warriors were able to find a deal that was suitable, and they needed to allow some dominoes, one big one being Kevin Durant, to come off the board. But when that happened today, in the second half of the day, they really started to prioritize Jimmy Butler. They worked fast, and they got this deal done.
About that domino that comes off the board in Kevin Durant, there were a lot of moving pieces there. I know I'm going to talk about it a little bit later with Brian Windhorst, but is it your understanding, Shams, that it's Kevin's preference to remain with Phoenix?
Scott, Kevin Durant has never requested a trade this season. He has not asked out of Phoenix. And honestly, I think him being in any type of a trade conversation over the last week was a surprise to him, somewhat caught him off guard from my understanding. But this is a player who, obviously, we know, two-time NBA Finals MVP, two-time champion. He's someone who has a great legacy in this game. And so to be in potential trade talks and not really want out of a situation, that has to potentially rub him the wrong way, you would think. And so this is something that the Suns and Durant, to an extent, are going to have to navigate whatever tensions could still exist going into tomorrow, trade deadline, and then beyond, if assuming he's still on the roster.
Man, it's complicated. I don't know how you navigate these water, Shams. And speaking of which, I know you got your phone at the ready in case something breaks. And we got a little bonus news here on the way out. A really talented player on the move.
Yeah, Brandon Ingram has been traded from the New Orleans Pelicans, and he's going to be going to the Toronto Raptors. And for the Raptors, this is obviously they're trying to go get, to have Scotty Barnes there. They want to really build around him. And, for Brandon Ingram, last year of his contract, he's going to find a home potentially for the foreseeable future.
All right. Well, listen, I know you're in the news-breaking business, but I beg of you as a guy that lives in a town where there's an ice storm and I have to go home, please none of that late-night tweeting from the other night. If that happens again, I'm going to have to walk back in here and break this news with you. So I'm begging to break the news tomorrow morning. They need it for Get Up and First Take. Come on, my guy.
Scott, I'm going the other way. I really hope. I think we might have something, Scott, but maybe I'm just optimistic.
Your optimism is great. All right, listen, I got nothing to do. I'll hang out until you tell me I can go home. Shams Charania, I appreciate you, man. Thank you.
Thank you.
Shams is going to break more news. It was fans behind the Heat bench that broke the news to the Heat players and their win over Philadelphia. Highlights coming later. That the trade had happened. Imagine that. Afterwards, here's Spo. He didn't want to talk about the guy that's been moved.
Obviously can't and won't ask you about trade that hasn't been announced or completed. I just want to ask you, though, is there any relief, without getting into names, is there any relief to have clarity to be able to move forward? Anything emotionally you're feeling which you can give us?
Sounds like you're still asking me. I know.
I wouldn't ask you about the trade.
Yeah. Let's table this. I promise I'll give you an answer.
As for the Warriors, they're adding one of the most prolific postseason scorers in the league. He averages more points, rebounds, assists, steals, and blocks in the playoffs as opposed to the regular season. Only 9 players in the history of the NBA have done that, one of whom is now a teammate in Draymond Green. In addition to those numbers, there's toughness, an innate ability to move without the ball, and his tenure with the Heat. Butler shot 78% on layups and dunks off cuts, 8th best over that span. As for the Warriors, they've attempted the most layups and dunks off cuts in the NBA this season, so that seems to marry up nicely. And after beginning the season 12-3, the Warriors have been reeling down to 10th in the Western Conference entering Wednesday. Move well regarded by sportsbooks. Golden State's odds to win the West shrunk from 30-1 down to 20-1. The man wasn't kidding. Charania alluded to some news, and hey, you're an absolute gem of a man to at least get it before we're driving home. The news is what? Who made a move?
Scott, we have another big Lakers trade. They've traded Dalton Knecht, Cam Reddish, a 2031 first-round pick, and a 2030 pick swap, all to the Charlotte Hornets for Mark Wiliams. And if you don't watch the Charlotte Hornets, Mark Wiliams is an athletic 7'2" rising big man. He really fits the profile of the type of player that we've seen Luka Doncic thrive with, the Derek Lively's of the world. And I think they are really excited in Los Angeles about that fit. A true center now. We've been talking about it. Anthony Davis, actually, before he got traded, talked about how the Lakers probably needed a 5 addition. The Lakers have been searching for one since last summer, Scott, and they finally found one. This is a guy that could pair with Luka Doncic really for the next 8 to 10 years. They paid a steep price, though, Scott, but they got a guy that could be a cornerstone piece for a while. Are you done, or is there more? You never know, but I had a little inkling on this one. But okay. Shout out also, Scott, to Charlotte. They are rebuilding, picked up a lot of assets as well. You think about this trade, Dalton Knecht can shoot. I know a lot of people in L.A. are shocked that Dalton Knecht was traded as a rookie, but you have to give to get. No, that's true. That was my reaction. I was like, I thought they liked the guy. But, I mean, look, things have changed quite significantly since you broke that news the other night about Luka. Shams, thank you very much. Well done. All right, we appreciate Shams. If he starts tweeting again, then we'll bring him back on. Joined now by Brian Windhorst. And, Brian, there are details that aren't necessarily meant for air. And because you mentioned something to me last week that was off air rather than on, I won't have the same cultural cachet as what's going on in Utah. But you mentioned a team to keep an eye on as it related to Jimmy Butler was Golden State. He's going to Golden State. What had to happen for this to be the end result?
So, this is one of those things where different people will have different versions of events, but there was a scenario that was somewhat close that was a 3-team trade yesterday that would have had Kevin Durant going to the Warriors, Jimmy Butler going to the Suns, and Andrew Wiggins in various pieces, probably similar to what the Heat got tonight, to Miami. There was this triangle that these 3 teams were working on. And that deal might have happened if Kevin Durant had not made it known he didn't want to go to Golden State. Mm-hmm. And once that happened, that deal fell apart. The Warriors backed off. They could have gone through with it, Scott. There was no trade clause. They could have done the deal and tried to work it out later, but they didn't. And when that happened, you basically had the Miami Heat with a choice to make. Would they do a deal with the Warriors for Jimmy Butler because they were still interested, or would they do a deal with the Suns for Kevin Durant? And I think that the Durant thing was something that was on the board, but I don't think it ever progressed. I don't know if we'll ever know why not or what the reasons were there. But Durant is going to stay in Phoenix, at least what I think for right now. And the key was earlier on Wednesday, the Warriors started doing contract negotiations with Jimmy Butler. And once that happened, it was pretty clear which way this was going to go. They reached a new 2-year deal. So Jimmy Butler is the winner here tonight, Scott. After demanding a trade, even though he had wanted to go to Phoenix, he ends up in Golden State with Steph Curry, and he gets a new 2-year contract with more than $100 million guaranteed. We said last week he's going to get what he wants. He's going to get traded. He did. What's interesting to me is, and I don't know is a fine answer, what's your sense of why Durant has Golden State as I'm not interested? Yeah, I'm not. One thing I've learned frankly, in having private conversations with Kevin is really shouldn't get into Kevin's head and try to assume what he's thinking.
Understood.
All I can tell you, that's something for him to say. I would just say the biggest person involved in this whole deal wasn't Kevin Durant. It was really Bradley Beal. Because for a month, the Suns tried everything they could to figure out how to get Jimmy Butler alongside Kevin Durant in Phoenix. And Bradley Beal used his no-trade clause to the hilt and made it clear he didn't want to move. And so that is what got the Suns into this corner. Because you look at where they're at, they're basically 500. They can't trade Bradley Beal, and Durant has a contract extension situation this summer. He's only got 1 year left. They sort of painted themselves into a corner. The only way to sort of improve the team was to look at Durant options, which they did. But ultimately, they did nothing.
You're an information guy, but you're a hoop head too. I just am curious, Brian, what do you think this makes Golden State?
I don't know. There's where I'll say I don't know. It's a great add to them, because Jimmy Butler is one of the rare players who can, in a playoff series or a playoff game, can take a team that maybe isn't the better team and carry them over the top. He's done that multiple times.
Yeah.
And you add a player like that, that's really a value add. And if you're Steph Curry, I think you're excited about bringing Jimmy in. And I also think Jimmy has gas left in the tank. He has the ability to be a difference maker in the playoffs. I don't know if the Warriors have enough time and a team to get out of the play-in and really put him in a position where he and Steph can go to work, though.
Tonight, everything that I asked Brian is on the air, and that's your benefit at home. Brian, I appreciate you, man. Thank you.
That's what you think.
There we go.